Serious, Redditors who were the final people to see a missing person, have they been found? And how has their disappearance affected you? I am positive me and my little brother were the last ones to see my father alive. We were waiting for the school bus and saw him driving back home with a strange look on his face. We waved to him, but he didn't wave back. After that he went missing. A couple of weeks later, he was found dead hanging from a tree. It was a suicide. It is a scene in my head that gets replayed in my head often, and it hurts me to imagine whatever might have been going through his head. I miss him so much. Thank you all for all the love and support. You may not think that your comments mean much, but they mean the world to me knowing that I have all of your support. Thank you all so much. Damn, that's rough, so sorry man. I was actually having a pretty decent day until I stumbled across this thread. Makes you think, every time you say goodbye to your loved ones could be the last time. I was the last person to see a patient of mine before his brother locked him in his basement for a few weeks. The patient was eventually found. I felt really privileged to have helped. By chance, he gave me his brother's address as a forwarding address and the police went looking for him there. When found, my guy was dehydrated and had a broken jaw, but ultimately did well. His brother is currently on a secure psychiatric ward. By patient, what do you mean? Like were they in the hospital? No, an outpatient. Saw in a clinic. I'm a doctor, psychiatrist. Police came to us for information as they had suspected a suicide. I was able to let them know that that was unlikely, and he was located within 24 hours. Quick edit, he felt suicidal, but his lack of intent made me judge that actual suicide was unlikely. Just in case my reply was stopping people from seeking help. Okay, thanks for the clarification. A friend in college had left a party we were at because he had remembered he left his jacket in another person's dorm. Nobody heard from him the following day, most figured he was drunk and just passed out somewhere. I even left a voicemail on his phone like, "Where are you? Lol, hope you aren't dead." Days turned into weeks, there were campus-wide manhunts with hundreds of volunteers. His body finally turned up in an electrical closet 6 weeks later. Accidental electrocution. Was this at Purdue? If not, this exact same thing happened when I was a student there. Regardless, I'm sorry for your loss. This 100% had to be at Purdue. Link to any news articles about this? Yeah, frown. From the article, Purdue spokesperson Gene Norberg said Tuesday, March 20th, that Steffi, who hadn't been seen since January 13th, was electrocuted. His body was found around noon Monday, March 19th, in a high-voltage utility room in Owen Hall by a university physical facilities employee who was called to check on a noise coming from the locked room. There was a noise coming from the room his body was in. Holy shit, 2 months went by. How did the body not smell? WTF. High-voltage electrical burns are pretty intense. Maybe he was smoke-charred so badly he was dried out and didn't decompose. I worked in a very small public library years ago. There was a young man, maybe 8 to 10 years older than me, that came in every few days for several months. He was very intelligent and extremely interesting. We talked often. One day he came in, we talked for a while and he asked me to make sure he had returned everything he had checked out. I did, and before he left he thanked me for always helping him and being nice, etc. He walked up the street to his apartment and shot himself. I always wished that I had realized he was saying goodbye. I had somewhat of a similar experience. My best friend suffered with suicidal ideation for the entirety of the several years that I knew her. She had attempted a few times unsuccessfully, and I hated the fact that it could have been successful and I wouldn't have had closure. So one day, while we were talking about her suicidal thoughts, I asked her to promise me that if she was ever going to attempt again, and was not willing to accept help or get talked out of it, that she would say goodbye in a way that I wouldn't realize was goodbye at the time but gave me some sort of closure. Fast forward a few months, and she was insistent on talking to me on the phone one night. We never really spoke on the phone, so I found this odd but thought maybe she felt lonely or something, so we talked for about an hour. She promised she was safe and we exchanged I love yous and good nights. But after our call she successfully took her life. I only found out because police called me the next day wanting to talk to me since I was the last contact anyone had with her. Honestly, I completely regret asking for that goodbye because it led to a lot of guilt that I missed, obvious, in hindsight, red flags that night that could have saved her. So I really understand what you mean when you say you wished you had known he was saying goodbye. It's not a good feeling at all. I am sorry about your friend. I do think it was beautiful that she loved you so much she kept her promise. I was the last person to see a patient admitted with major depression after his divorce, just found out he didn't receive custody of his kids. The senior doctor decided he was low risk because he had no significant mental health history, didn't disclose any specific plans to hurt himself, and appeared very well and optimistic. When asked about his occupation during the interview, he vaguely mentioned he worked for the law. So he had unescorted day leave to pick up some toiletries. I held the door on his way out. Never saw him again. 2 weeks later a stranger found his car on the side of the road, bullet in his head. Turned out he was a police officer and had access to a gun to shoot himself. In response to a PM about this, whenever I post about other people, I change details, for example gender, situational aspects, etc. to equivalencies so that they are 100% definitely not recognizable, for privacy on their behalf. They wouldn't be able to recognize themselves, so it's very unlikely I've met a family friend who sounds familiar here. So sorry to anyone who have been affected by similar experiences. A majority of suicides are men, but yet they are not taken seriously by mental health doctors. I am a woman, I got hospitalized without having a plan to do suicide and it helped me a lot. My boyfriend, after a nervous breakdown where he broke a window with his head, got taken by the emergencies, spent the night strapped down to a bed, didn't get hospitalized the next day. They let him go, after 3 shots of tranquilizants. He couldn't walk properly. Women are not taken seriously with physical problems, they say it's all in their head, so they get sent to mental health services. Men are taken very seriously with physical pain because they are supposed to be tough, but not when it comes to mental health, also because they are supposed to be tough. Medical professionals should just take people seriously regardless of gender. Saw him at a club with some friends on a night out. One of my friends was hooking up with him on and off, so they had usual uni drama going on. He left after that to go back home or something. The next morning he was found dead. The last ever video was him getting off a bus, and then there was no other CCTV footage of him after he walked a bit further down the road. They investigated our uni for months and months, but no leads were ever found. His death was never solved. It's really unsettling to this day. Did they know how he died, stabbed, shot, etc.? He was just found dead on the side of the road with a fractured skull. They were found. Committed suicide in a motel room. I was ignorant and did not realize he was reaching out for help. That realization after the fact hit me hard. I saved his last email to me, and read it as a reminder every so often. This person didn't go missing, but I was the last person to see him alive. My best friend and I were drinking on my porch in college. It was about 3:30 a.m. and I told him I was going to bed because I had to work the next day. He begged me to have another drink with him, but I insisted that I needed to get to sleep. The next morning I woke up to my roommate screaming for me to come downstairs. I ran down and my friend had hung himself while sitting down under the porch railing. We cut him down, did CPR even though we knew he was gone already. It was the most traumatic things I've witnessed and had really affected my life. I pieced together things from the night, like the rope he hung himself with was his friend's dog leash that we searched for a long time for, and could not find. We think he hid the leash as a premeditated event. Just thinking that he begged to spend just a little more time with me, but I refused really hurts. #X200B edit, thanks for the gold. Since this is getting a lot of attention, I want to say that if you notice any odd behavior from friends or jokes about someone harming themselves, please take it seriously. Oftentimes it is a cry for help. I'm saddened to hear of so many of you who have had to deal with the same thing. I would hug you all if I could. Please, please, please reach out to me if you need to chat. Love. I don't know if I was the last person to see her alive, but one of the last. Lori Hacking and her husband Mark Douglas Hacking came into my cell phone store 2 days before she found out about how he had lied to her about pretty much everything in his life, and he killed her and their unborn child. They were both awesome people. She was happy and bubbly and he was a really nice guy. #X200B, I came in from the weekend, and there was a missing poster on our store door for Lori. It was really weird seeing that she was missing after just selling them cell phones and a plan. I reached out to the number and told them that her and Mark had been into the store 2 days before she went missing. I had to meet with the local police and an FBI agent. They had to look at the paperwork we had done, the video for the store, and interview all of the employees. The weirdest thing is that Mark came into the store after killing her and asked me a question about their cell phone plan. After killing his wife and dumping her body. The weirdest thing is that Mark came into the store after killing her and asked me a question about their cell phone plan. After killing his wife and dumping her body. So, Was that after you discovered she was missing, or in the interim before the announcement went out that she was missing? Either way, oof.